I'm Katie Atwell, co-host of the EduGals podcast, a part of the Education Podcast Network, just like the show you're listening to now. Shows on the network are individually owned, and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other interesting education podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
You're listening to the High Tech Podcast. This is Josh, one of the hosts, joined by my fellow host, friend. I was gonna come up with another nickname, so I got nothing for you. Will.
Thanks, my man.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I don't know. I can find something else. Thank you for joining us tonight, the High Tech Podcast, where we love to talk about ed tech and lots of other fun things, you know, whatever that may be. My wife started calling me as I'm doing the intro, which means my headphones shut off for a second, so I had a mini panic attack, breaking the fourth wall of the podcast. Yeah. Anyway, we're here. How you doing, Will? You got your things look a bit different, man. You know.
Yeah, it's a little. This is the holiday episode. This is some holiday appeal. I'm on the road. I'm at my in-laws' house. Always, if I'm not home, I'm at one of my in-laws' houses, and I'm sick. I'm on any number of ibuprofen at this point. I don't even remember how many. We're making the best of it.
Yeah, so this is where we ask Will really hard-hitting questions because we get lots of information as we jump into the podcast.
Ibuprofen's not a truth serum, dude. It's just,
I don't know.
It just keeps
like, in my mind, a lot of drugs just helps, no matter what they are. You know, I don't know.
Well, we don't endorse that. Children do not listen.
No, I wasn't endorsing it. You know, it's just if you've got a co-host who's doing drugs, leverage the moment.
Legal, over-the-counter, anti-inflammatories. Yes. Can we not say the word drugs, please?
Yeah, but it was a good time, you know. I want to keep YouTube guessing. Should I block them or shouldn't I? You know, that's the game. Anyway, welcome to the High Tech Podcast. This week, breaking fourth wall just for a hot second. The reason things look a little bit different too, and while we're doing this even when Will is sick, is because Will and I realized we never recorded the intro outro for this episode, so we are doing it quite later than we normally do. But we are super excited for another week on the High Tech Podcast as we are continuing our Ted Lasso Goes to College series. I don't know about you, Will, but I have been enjoying this so far. It's been a journey. It's been a good time.
It's been lovely. It was fun for us to start on our own. It was great to have Justin in, and wait for it.
I'm waiting.
With a new guest, Robin Jeffers, right? We're on to our third episode here. I did. Did it not come through on your end?
It did not come through to me. So
folks, we're in a new platform.
Maybe
we're playing
they
around
heard a
with
sound
it.
effect. Yeah, who knows what happened?
You should have heard it.
Okay, should have heard a sound effect. This is also another moment for us this week. We are recording on a new platform. Finally, Will and I have been looking to move to Riverside for a while, and so they're not a sponsor yet. You should be.
They're an affiliate. We're affiliates.
Oh, that's right. We are an affiliate now. So yeah, hey, we got that. So we're an affiliate now.
Click on our link, sign up. That'll be helpful for the podcast.
If you're looking to do a podcast, Riverside seems like a cool tool. We'll tell you more as we do it longer. I feel like it's not completely fair for me and Will to say it's amazing as we're like day one into recording with it. But we can tell you can do sound effects, sort of, wherever that went. I didn't hear it, but I'm sure it's there.
You know what? I'm looking at it now, and there's a button where it says preview, and there's a button where it says live. So I really think
heard it. Yeah,
I'm the only one that heard it.
Yeah, no, I remember that now from when we tested this the first time. You can preview it for yourself. So would you like to give it another go? Would we like to pretend?
Yeah. Well, I'm just gonna go for this. Did you get that one?
Yeah, that worked. I can hear that. There you go.
There you go. And a little extra laughter in the mix with us.
At this point, we've lost half the people listening to this episode, but that's fine. Anyway, we're continuing Ted Lasso Goes to College series. So far, we've had a good time. Will and I talking about kind of the ensemble of the Ted Lasso group and kind of talking about group dynamics and what we learned from that. And Dr. Justin Harbin joined us last week as we talked about Roy, and we talked really about kind of what like mentorship can look like and how we can help kind of grow students through that and kind of the experience of all that. We've been pulling a lot of cool stuff from it. This week we continue with joined from the one, the only Robin J. Jeffers. You may note her from the Robin J. Jeffers taxonomy series.
Yes, Robin S. Jeffers taxonomy
Did I
series.
say J? I kept saying J.
You did
Whatever.
J.
You know what? It's fine. I've known Robin long enough. I can screw up her name, and we still know that we like each other.
You did great, buddy. You did great.
I did great.
You did great.
This is a lot of power for you to have with sound effects.
Yeah, it's too much. It's too much.
It's too much. Anyway, yes. So Robin is joining us again. She's not been on the podcast in a little while, but she's joining us this week to talk about Rebecca. And talk about, again, there's a lot of common themes coming out each week in this series, and this week is the same way, whereas we're talking about characters, we inevitably kind of get to this idea of kind of unexpected characters dealing with things kind of behind the scenes and how that impacts our understanding of people dealing with things and our students dealing with things. And so this week we absolutely do that as we jump into talking about Rebecca and what it looks like to talk with students, deal with students who might be dealing with stuff behind the scenes we don't know, we don't understand, and why that causes them to act the way they do. For those of you who don't remember, Robin has a lot of experience teaching, and so she brings that kind of the table this week as we talk about just working with students under this dynamic. So I think I've belabored us enough of what that introduction is going to be. Will has done enough sound effects, so I'm going to get us to a place where there are no sound effects because we weren't recording with this yet when we recorded Robin. So with that said, let's go to Robin and talk about Rebecca.
All right, we are very excited to have with us a long-term friend of the podcast, Robin Jeffers. How are you doing today, Robin?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Now there's no like memorial service, or what do we say? There's no taxonomy series.
The memorial series of Robin S.
honoring
Jeffers.
your name, the Robin S. Jeffers taxonomy.
If you guys
series.
didn't know this, we're graced with a celebrity. Yeah. She had her own taxonomy series, If you didn't notice, it was because Robin, I don't think, liked that. You were like joking, you were like, you didn't need to do that, so I made the text smaller in the series title, so it was just like the taxonomy series, and then it said Robin S. Jeffers,
like whispering it.
Yeah, it was like whispering it at the bottom of the series.
That's the last time I tell you I don't like something.
That's pretty smart. That's a smart way to do that, actually.
Yeah.
Don't tell us you don't like something. It's gonna happen. Robin's joining us for the third episode in our Ted Lasso Goes to College series. I've been nerding out with tons of different people on this. Josh, I feel like this is a gift. I feel like Josh has given me the gift of getting to talk about Ted Lasso.
Well, you keep advertising like this was my idea. We kind of had it together, and I said we should do this. Yeah, but you were a participant.
I guess. Yes.
The way, anyway, it's fine.
We are starting these episodes, Robin, with a quick question to kind of get ourselves level set. Like the audience, of course, knows I'm a nerd, I'm a fan, I'm a fanatic, I'm a crazy person. Where are you on a scale of 1 to 10? What level of fanatic are you?
He always pulls out the
Ted Lasso. I forget to do it ahead of time, so I just.
What are you? Candles. Okay. So okay. Don't kill me. I've only watched each episode once, but I have watched all the episodes.
That's acceptable.
So I don't know. Would that be like a 7? I love them.
I mean, sure. Yeah,
but
might be 6 territory, but I think we said
okay. I could.
What environment have we created though where Robin has to apologize for only seeing the series once? That's
Robin,
all.
This is a safe space. I promise you.
That is, Robin. That's what normal people do. They watch a show and they move on. It's okay.
What are you saying, Josh?
But when one of us has
I've seen it more than once, so I'm not normal. It's fine.
That's true. Yeah.
Oh my.
For your sake.
So we watched it once.
Go ahead.
So it was kind of funny actually, because my husband really loves football, real football, not American football, so soccer. He really does love it. And he grew up playing it, and he still plays in like a pickup league and stuff like that.
Oh, cool.
And my mom, back when it came out, my mom was like, oh, you should watch this show because it's this American football coaching soccer. And my husband was like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. So
yes.
he like refused to watch it for the longest time. And I watched it by myself a little bit before. And I was like, honey, you really got to watch this. It's hilarious.
Yep.
So then I made him watch it and we started watching it and then we watched all of them. So there was a bit of resistance at first.
Yeah.
I will say but I don't know. We ended up loving it. It really is endearing and there really is a lot of soccer in it.
Yeah. I'll say the interesting thing about Ted Lasso is it's created a craze, much like certain people with ideologies that get known for being militant. Vegans, like just certain people in the world get known for being
when I think military, I think vegans.
No, but like when somebody starts to believe something, they're like, I have to train you to believe, Ted Lasso did that with me. There's not a person I talk to where I'm like, oh, you should watch Ted Lasso.
I'm telling you, you're a Ted evangelist. We've said this now.
Yep.
There's it's like televangelists. There's Ted evangelists, and it's Will.
Robin, I'm probably like I think I'm 13, somewhere there. On a 10 scale. Yeah.
I could see that.
It's good. It's not. It's bad. It's good. I can quote a lot of it. I love it. It's a good thing.
There's unhealthier things to be obsessed with in your defense. That's all.
It's true.
Like,
I could gamble,
like
or something.
Murder, serial killers. That's unhealthy.
Like self-destruction, all of that.
Like,
okay.
Just saying.
You're fine.
There's a scale.
I'll accept my candles. My vigil here and my insane knowledge of the entire series. So in this episode we are going to dig into Rebecca. We're focusing each of these episodes around a character to help us channel the conversation. Other characters like Ted, etc., are not into touch, Robin. They are welcome. You may use those characters in this conversation, right? But we want to kind of see this idea of education, see what we can do for other people, see how we can improve teaching and learning through Rebecca's eyes. Now, I'll set some things up here. Season 1, we get Rebecca. We kind of see her as maybe the villain. We see a little bit in this early episodes, like, who is she going to be? She's trying to ruin things. She's hurt. She's upset. That gets changed right away. By the end of season 1, we see who she really is. Ted kind of helps dig her out of her own crust. But then for seasons 2 and 3, we get to see her blossom and bring others around her and lift up Keely and try to make the club better and new. So pretty good journey there. I think one of the first things I take away from that overall journey is that we can see in people, a deeper story than we expect, right? On the front, she's got all this money, she's got all this clout, she's hurt from her divorce, but people may expect that. They don't really know it. She's putting on this face, and yet there's a lot more that people need to learn about her, and we see that in our students all the time. That we don't know we don't know the trauma that's following them. We don't know the good things. We don't know why they're motivated. We don't know how they just won a soccer game last week, or that they're excited to go on a cruise with their family after holidays. Like, so there's these things that I think start me off on Rebecca. I don't know if anybody's feeling something kind of psychically, if you will, that we need to take forwards here from Rebecca, but that's my starting
point. Robin, with your psychic skills, what are you feeling out here?
My what skills?
With your psychic skills, because we know you're known for your clairvoyancy.
I'm not known for that at all.
I'm curious, Robin, from your perspective, do you see it like the same way? Do you see the similar stuff when you're looking at Rebecca's character?
I can definitely agree with that. I also think she's got some unexpected things that happen to her, and she takes that into whatever she does. And I also appreciate her relationship with Keely as women in power, and they become such good friends that, Keely is just so opposite of Rebecca in personality, just so silly and whimsical, and I adore her. I love her outfits. I don't know, Will, if you know that I'm the VP of Sparkle in our office, but I could definitely get into some Keely outfits.
Yeah, we have a diverse cabinet. One of them is vice president of Sparkle.
How have I not heard of this?
I can't believe this hasn't come up before. Yeah.
This is amazing.
This is the title. Yeah.
That's my title at work, VP of Sparkle. But yeah, like, so Keely's this like whimsical and fun and like, you know, outgoing little creature, and Rebecca is just so stoic and like you said, like she she keeps it all inside until she doesn't, until she feels like super comfortable with Keely as this confidant that she has. And I really think that if we're looking at education from a teaching perspective, you've got to have that. Like, their teaching is not always going to be roses, and there's going to be some grief and hardship that we go through, and having to do with the job or not. It could be personal life or it could be the job itself. But to have somebody like that to, you know, confide in and to support you, I think that's a really good aspect that we can learn from their relationship together.
Yeah. And we see Keely all the time with Rebecca, but that it's actually kind of, in some way I'd say like an echo of the relationship she has with Sassy, who pops in and pops out. I think you said grief. I think of that the funeral where both of them are there, both of them serving a different purpose, but both of them treating a funeral with that whimsy. You know, Keely sees Sassy and just squeals immediately. Like it's just Keely being her. But I know, like in my own life, education and grief have overlapped few too many times, unfortunately. Like my father passed away while I was in the middle of a teaching semester. Like grief is something that's real to all of us, teachers, learners. And having those Keelys, having those Sassies a part of your circle, a part of your peer group is critical to getting through it.
It is.
You know?
Absolutely.
You need a Josh. You need a Josh to your Will. You need a Will to your Josh to make it through.
Yeah, somebody needs to be happy, somebody needs to not be, and so let's see if it that. No,
you decide who's who.
Yeah, you decide who's. I'm sure it'll be hard for the listener to figure that out. The thing I was thinking of is too, you were talking that I find interesting with back to Rebecca as a character and the story behind Rebecca, right, and the leading that happens to that. The other dynamic to Rebecca's story that I've always found interesting in the show is the weird like interaction of Ted always bringing like oh my gosh, I can't remember it now. What is the thing he always brings? It's I want to say crumpet, but I know that's not wrong.
Biscuits.
Biscuits. There we go. He's always bringing biscuits to her, and there's like this consistency to the way Ted interacts with her in season 1 that I think eventually kind of wins Rebecca over, right? Eventually kind of breaks through that shell, and Ted doesn't necessarily know what's going on. I think Ted can assume some things based on as the story continues, right? So I was thinking of this. There's something for me that's interesting thinking of it from a teaching perspective, when because obviously I come to this dynamic thinking about the students we interact with, and like the way we don't always know what's going on in students' lives and what they bring to the class and what they do. We can be excited / frustrated, which Robin and I have probably both expressed those opinions at different times in the office about students in our class. But like that never happens. But there's this thing that reminds me, which is how much that consistency thing matters as a teacher of what you're doing. How being a consistent force in our students' lives, both positive, what they might view as positive and negative, right? That consistency is something that I've noticed means so much. Even if like I think back to my own time as a student and having professors, there were professors I had that like it wasn't that they were easy professors, they were quite sometimes difficult professors, frustratingly so, and we would complain about it, but there was a dynamic to them as a professor that I respected, which is that they were consistently that way, at least. Like they had consistent expectations of me, and they consistently showed up into the classroom and made an investment. And like that consistency, no matter what was going on, you may not, because I think we get overwhelmed in this conversation as teachers thinking, well, now we need to know everything that's going on with our students. We have to account that they might be dealing with these. At some level, like we just have to recognize that students have this stuff going on and then figure out how we can most consistently be a force of good and learning in their environment. I think, I don't know, is that oversimplifying things maybe a bit, or what are your thoughts?
I don't think so. I think there's a lot of people who demonstrated consistency like that around Rebecca. Like, I mean, Higgins too. Higgins, Keely, and Ted, I think all demonstrated that for Rebecca, because they were all like there for her in different ways. Through her, I mean, she did go through a lot of grief. Like she had some anger, you know. Yeah.
Not only divorce, which is hard, but divorce from the devil himself.
Rupert, like, wait, what Ted Lasso were you watching?
Rupert makes a strong case for all of he's the epitome of negative. If you look at the meta narrative of Ted, he's the only villain who's not redeemed. We do get villains. There are antagonists at time. Rebecca is redeemed. Nate's redeemed. Even Jamie has antagonistic things. He goes away from the team, right? He's seen as an enemy. Redeemed. Rupert, no. And that was actually something I was hoping, like, that it could have almost spoiled the whole thing for me if they redeemed him, because life isn't clean like that. We have there are villains in all of our lives. But that's where I think it's beautiful that Rebecca is redeemed by not just Ted. You know, I think Ted even makes his own point in season 3 when he's talking with the journalist. Oh gosh, now that's gonna kill me. Trent Krim, the Independent. Don't
she only watched it once.
Right.
For those just listening, I was just going to push away and leave the camera, but that's why you should watch YouTube to see my antics. I was gonna say,
you'd see that if you were watching video.
No, Trent wants to name it the Lasso way, and Ted has the humility and the understanding to say it's not the Lasso way, because Higgins is involved, because Keely's involved, because Roy gets involved, because they're all really engaged in it. And that's one of those things we're 2 episodes after our ensemble episode starting out this series, but the ensemble is so important to this entire thing. We get beautiful stories from Rebecca and out of Rebecca's life, but the ensemble makes it happen.
Yeah.
One of the things, though, in that consistency that shows up for me is, like, Ted also doesn't try to break Rebecca down, or, like, that's something that happens a lot of times with teachers who might get a little too personal about bad students or tough students. That's a better way to put it, right? It's like, oh, how can I beat this student? How can I not physically beat them, please? Dear God, don't sound clip that one.
That will come during our series when we talk about Game of Thrones goes to college.
Sean Bean's gonna die in our podcast too.
Yeah, well, he dies everywhere.
But you know, like how do I conquer? There's a better word. How do I conquer these tough students? How do I win in the classroom? How do I dominate? Right. And it's like that's never Ted's thing, and it's shown with at least Rebecca, with everybody, that, you know, it doesn't have to be a fight necessarily. We can make it work. We can build the relationships.
Yeah, I'm curious, Robin, from your perspective, like, because you've been in a situation where you've taught people who are going to be teachers, or you've been a teacher yourself on regular occasions, and which usually involves food at some point. Robin brought her people food today, but of course,
we all brought food. It was
you all brought food. Okay,
it was a whole party. Yeah, we all brought
that works
food.
Perfect with group dynamics. That's beautiful. I'm curious though. How do you, either you've handled it or instruct future teachers to handle this, like the difficult students? How do you deal with that, or teach people to deal with that? What is your go-to that you're kind of looking to, that you're saying this is how we should respond as a teacher?
Well, there's really no one right way. There's plenty of right ways. There's also plenty of wrong ways, I guess. One
Game of Thrones style, for instance, would be
right. One right way would not be viewing it as conquering or winning,
right.
Because
or beating
that automatically puts them at a disadvantage. If you are, as the teacher, if you're thinking like, that's very self-centered. It's very, me-centric. I think with just trying to like never giving up on trying to be consistent, like the way we were talking about with consistency. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. If a tough student is really just dealing with something themselves, I mean, they don't go into a situation. No one goes into a situation like completely willingly saying, well, I'm just going to be ridiculous because I don't know, whatever. But like there's a reason behind everything. So I would think not giving up in trying to find that reason and find that the root of what's causing something. Because once you know the cause, then you can more easily figure out a solution. But if you don't know the cause, then just showing up is sometimes good enough.
Yeah. I think without some of those unexpected things in Rebecca's life, that's all Ted would have done, right? Ted was just showing up. He never knew. He had no access to the information of what was happening behind closed doors with Rebecca. It wasn't until Roy and Keely get the camera card off of the photographer that they find the truth, and they confront her with the truth, and then she has to wrestle with that internally. But Ted, as if we say, Ted's her teacher, he doesn't change his tactic. He just stays present. He keeps bringing his biscuits. He loves on her in the best way he can, as a friend, as a peer, as a colleague. And I think that's a fun, a nice image of that. And maybe that's the encouragement to all of us. Like, what's your camera card? What's the thing you're holding on to that's going to make it harder for you to be related to or to relate to others? There's a message for the student, right?
Yeah.
If you're a learner, if you're having a hard time, you don't have to spill your guts to every teacher, but it might be worth saying to the teacher, hey, I'm having a rough week because my parents are divorcing, someone I know died. These are the things that are normal and happen in our lives. And too often we, on both sides of the aisle, teacher, learner, choose to ignore it or hide it or not engage with it actively.
Yeah. And I think some students are very forthcoming with that information, but then some students just aren't. And that has to be okay with us as teachers. Like it has to be okay that they don't really want to tell us all of the things. I mean, I just had this conversation with a student the other day. I know like he's failing. He knows it. I know it. And he's actually very good at the subject. Like there's no reason why he's failing except for the fact that he didn't turn in with anything. So, we worked something out. I was like, I know something is going on, but I don't need to know what it is. Can we work a plan? And he's like, I really appreciate that, like being willing to work with me. So, I mean, sometimes all it is, I know you're going through something hard and I don't need to know the details, but you need to know that I'm here for you. So,
yeah. What I really like about that is like acknowledging that there's probably something going on and not requiring anything from the student beyond that, right? Like that's really cool. It's powerful in those moments, right? Where like, because I do think the line that we sometimes cross as teachers is going, okay, well, I need to figure out what the problem is. So like, student A, I know there's a problem going on. It's probably that I've given you the name student A instead of a real name, but for now we will we will get past that. But like acknowledging, like I think the way we jump over it is like, I know there's a problem going on, just tell me what's going on, right? And then as teachers being frustrated when that doesn't happen, right? And being like, well, the student just doesn't care, I'm trying to connect with them, they don't care. It's like, well, no, like they may not want to share with you what's going on, right? That they and I think putting that responsibility on them too isn't fair as a teacher. It's just acknowledging and having a moment to acknowledge that, like assuming the benefit of the doubt in those situations, right? Without at the same time just like letting the student off the hook to do stuff for the course or things like that. Like at an end, you're kind of acknowledging that, like, I'm going to assume that there's something going on. There has to be for this to be in this situation. Can we figure out a plan? And that puts it back in the students' boat as well. Like if they don't figure out a plan, then like, listen, you've tried as a teacher. You can only do so much. We can only force If we could
Right.
force learners to do exactly what we wanted them to do, we wouldn't need instructional designers. We wouldn't need any of these
Yeah.
other jobs that focus on how people learn. We could just be like, it's cool. We tell them what to do and they do it. That's the thing.
Here, read this book and you'll know all about it.
Yeah, well,
Done.
that's how you learn. Yeah, clearly.
Yeah.
At least in higher
Yeah,
ed.
absolutely.
You get the book
Yeah.
first, then you just teach the book. That's another podcast episode. That's a
Josh,
different one.
be
Can I come on
gentle.
for that episode too?
Yep, sign her up right now.
Yeah, for sure.
We're
right on that.
booking 2 months out though, so I'll let you
Yeah,
know.
exactly.
I
That's
know.
That's gonna be the Ted
it was tough
Lasso
to get
hates
back on
books
here.
series. It's just gonna be. But yeah, I think on the other side, I'm curious to dig into, as we're talking about Rebecca as a character, right? Is that we like obviously one of the big interesting thing about Rebecca as a character that we learn from is some of that like deeper, we don't always know the whole story type of situation. I think we've dug into that. But what's interesting thing about Rebecca's character then is the turnaround, right? Where like I've said this several times in the series, I'll keep saying it. Part of the reason what has inspired Will and I to do this series, one, because I knew Will would like the series and we liked Ted Lasso, and it gave me an excuse to AI generate Ted Lasso. Like, it was a great time. But the other end of it is that one of the things I'm most interested in Ted Lasso is that almost every character starts a certain way and then learns and reshapes into something better at the end, something more desired at the end, right? And I come back to this all the time. At its core, as teachers, no matter what topic we're teaching, the reality is we have students at one spot and we'd like them to be at a different spot, and our job is to figure out how in the middle to get them there, right? And so what I think is interesting in Ted Lasso is that like it does give us, yes, written perfectly by script writers, it's narrated,
This wasn't a documentary.
everything. It's not a documentary.
It's
like
not a
all
reality
those dynamics,
show.
but I do think there's some components to, like, honestly, I look at Ted Lasso and I see somebody writing Ted Lasso and I go, okay, they wrote it this way and so many people like it because we wish people were actually like this, because we know if some people cared or did what some of the people do in this show, other people would experience the same change that we see happening in the Ted Lasso series. And so Rebecca is one of those characters I see do that. And what's interesting is how she then kind of becomes that for other people out of that, right? Like she becomes that for, especially in season 3, for Keely, like becomes no longer like the equal or person that's getting thrown out, kind of getting called out for her crap, but becomes the mentor when Keely's having the problems, right? I think it's true in teaching that if we put in this time and energy, we may not always see it in our classrooms, but I've seen it happen where those students, one of the things we forget is the students who often are struggling and seem to be the students that are creating the most problems sometimes, if you really invest energy to understand them, I think one of the lessons we learn is that some of those students end up becoming, on the reverse side, like the best student at mentoring other students and end up becoming other things, right? Like when I was in high school, I hated education. Like I wouldn't have put it that way. I basically just hated school, like with a passion. And like it wasn't until later on, having teachers coming around me and kind of figuring out why that was and what that direction was, that I ended up starting to love what education was, right? And so I think there's just, I don't not necessarily like a hard principle for us to learn or something to take away. I think there's something interesting and true to that, right? Is that those students can end up kind of turn around and end up becoming even more powerful with other students than we expect. Have you guys seen the same thing? Like the same kind of idea?
Well, Ted says something in like the first 2 or 3 episodes. He points at Roy Kent and he goes, "The first domino to fall is in that man's heart." And the idea, the image of dominoes is the relationships of Ted Lasso. I love that it's so early and it's like, what is, oh, it's cute, but it's like episode to episode you can see how these relationships, how everybody's kind of leaning on each other and resulting in the culmination of the story. I think that's something I love about what you're talking about, Josh. We don't know it, and sometimes we don't even know it. We don't know that we're just gonna knock over and hit somebody who's gonna do something, and hopefully it's positive. Not always is that the case, but dominoes are a good metaphor, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
I think not only for students changing throughout their their journey. But I mean, teachers as well can reinvent themselves, kind of like what Rebecca did. I know it's like for me, my exit from K-12 was slightly traumatic, and I didn't know what I was going to do, because it wasn't as easy to leave one place and get another job the next year when you had 12 years of experience and a master's over somebody coming right out of school. So it's not that easy, especially in little old Lancaster County. So reinventing myself as an educator was hard, and but I wouldn't give it up for the world. I mean, I love what I'm doing now, but I didn't even realize instructional design existed when I was like 10 years ago. You know,
Right.
I mean, I know it did, but like as a teacher, we're taught like you can only do this. Like this is a classroom. These are your resources, and you're a teacher now.
Right.
Okay, cool. What else can I do with an education degree? You know, so just coming from K-12 to higher ed, I mean, it wasn't quick by any means. I spent 6 years, but going between 3, sometimes 4 jobs at a time,
Wow.
trying to figure it out.
Wow.
So, and I say 4 because I count mom as 4 as like as a whole
That's
job.
3.5 right there. Personal opinion. I don't know how you do it.
But I mean, at one point I was aiding in a first grade classroom, then waiting tables and adjuncting, and being a mom at the same time.
Dang.
No, subbing, not adjuncting. Then I traded subbing for adjuncting.
Dang.
So yeah, and somewhere in there
did
I
you
learned
sleep?
to bake pie. No,
No.
I would no. I honestly, like on the days that I was aiding and waitressing, I would go to school 9 to 2 and then go to work 4 to midnight and then do it all again. So,
Dang.
and that's when my kids were fairly little. So yeah,
Dang.
it was hard, but I love higher ed and I love instructional design. So yeah,
I talked to a lot.
A reinventing process.
Yeah.
So
I talked to a lot of potentially transitioning teachers, hopeful transitioning teachers, transitioning teachers, whatever. It's a lot of the same word in different ways.
Kind of.
Who because the pandemic, recent years, remote, all that, they want to get out, and they're all wrestling with what that is. Like, what jobs can I get to? It's like, well, frankly, there's a big boom in the instructional design, learning design space. It's actually hard to get into right now because you have to have demonstration of like a portfolio of skills that you can show that you can do the work. It's not just like, oh, you taught before, you can do this, right? Which is actually more true than not. Like, I'm not saying that just being a teacher makes you a great instructional designer, but having teaching experience is better than
helps
waitressing. Not, like there's certain skills that are going to be more more useful.
Unless you're designing courses to teach people how to waitress, I feel like that's solid background.
Oh, that'd be great. I could totally do that.
Yeah, totally do that. There you go. That's like your perfect storm, Robin. You just create a little interactive learning module.
I could design a course on baking pie.
Well, if we ever need to build more portfolio items, I think we should do a learning module on how to build a pie. We joke about this, but there's a guy who did one on how to mix drinks, and Will and I are still like, this is the coolest looking one. I kind of want to make one about pie now.
Not only did he make it about how to mix drinks, but he did it so it's mobile friendly. Like, where are you going to be when you're going to mix a drink? Do you have your laptop in front of you? No. Yeah. It pulls up his phone and it shows like Moscow Mule, and it's got all these interactables, and it shows you the percent,
like tells you the right percentages. I think we pull that off for pie.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, and frankly, we might need practice a little bit, Robin. So maybe come over to your place.
I feel like Will and I don't know the right percentages, so
we don't know how to make pie. We're gonna need you as our SME.
Like if we're gonna do this, I feel like Robin has to be actively making the pie while we're building. We're storyboarding out the course.
We can take live photography.
That's the only way to learn.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we need some live photography. There's all reasons to this. So like this, we'll probably at least need 12 pies. We're being honest.
That's cool. That's cool.
Okay.
I came home from my first day at the bakery saying to my husband, I have a problem. I can't make anything less than 6 pie crusts at a time. He's like, I don't see that as a problem.
Yeah. Never once have I heard I can't make more or less than 6 pie crusts at a time and gone, that's a problem. That's actively the
You are an
solution to
asset
most problems.
in
Yes.
the zombie apocalypse. I do want someone who can make pies personally. I would
Oh,
like
that's
that
funny
skill.
because I
Oh,
was
yeah.
only on my daughter's zombie apocalypse team because I can cook. So she
I love that your
parsed out
daughter has
everyone
a
in our family on who she would, and friends, like who she would want on her zombie apocalypse team. And my husband of course made it because he's awesome at
Naturally.
like things. And I only made it because I can cook, and well, we're gonna have to eat, so I guess mom can come. Isn't that amazing?
I told
I love
Robin when I
that.
heard this story that she should have just stopped making food for her kids for like a week and been like, let's see how much you like that. It was like I was just listening to a guy who was saying he gave a chore list to his daughter, and the daughter responded back with, "Where's your chore list?" And he said, and he responded and said, "Did you wake up this morning off of that bed onto that floor to the table for breakfast?" He goes, check. He's like,
That's about it. That's about it.
Anyway,
amazing.
Oh man.
Yeah, I would
Are we
pick
talking
you
about
for the zombie
Rebecca?
apocalypse. Yeah, we're supposed to be talking about Rebecca.
Yeah.
I would also pick
Thank
Rebecca
you.
for zombie apocalypse. I think she would come in handy. You
Yeah.
know?
She's
I would
tall.
too.
She can sing.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
She can.
Actually,
Exactly.
I don't want you to be loud in the zombie apocalypse. So.
Well, you do if you want to get away from the zombies.
Oh, so she's bait. Did you
Yeah,
say that
well,
Rebecca is bait?
Like, listen, let's be real here. On a zombie apocalypse team, you've got to also think about who can be bait. Like, while you don't want it
But
to
she's
get
also
there,
a badass,
at some point it
so
will.
she could definitely.
That's true.
She could definitely kick some zombie butt.
I mean, she's also in Game of
Yeah.
Thrones, so she's probably fine.
Is she?
Yeah.
Hannah Waddingham is in Game of Thrones. She's the old scary
I've not
nun
even
lady.
watched it, but
What?
yeah.
She yells shame. Shame.
Yes, I didn't know that
Shame.
was her.
That's Hannah Waddingham.
Wow, so many things that you learned today. You learned that you can learn how to teach from Rebecca, and you learned that she was in Game of Thrones. If you're gonna have takeaways from the High Tech Podcast this week, listeners, those are your takeaways. There you go. That and Robin would be a great zombie apocalypse edition. So to Robin's daughter,
if you want to eat.
Yeah, take that.
Only if you like pie.
Only if you. Well, I mean, everybody likes pie. That's not incorrect. That's a correct evaluation.
Yeah.
Well, we have thoroughly bludgeoned this soccer football,
something like that. I'm gonna save you from this because I think you're about to forget about this, and I'm gonna save you.
Good job, Josh. Good job.
You are right. We have bludgeoned the soccer ball, if you will. But we also need to. I don't know how I'm gonna transition to this now. I got nothing.
Do you have an app for us?
Do you have an app for us, Robin? You would like
I actually do. How about that?
Yeah. There you go.
It's like I've listened to you guys before and I knew what to expect.
That makes one of us.
I was gonna say Will was about to forget about it.
This is actually okay, so it's less of an app. I don't think there's no like app that you can download, but it's a website and it's a resource and it's useful for teachers. So I figured it fits. So I recently found, it's called commonlit.org, and it is a repository of all kinds of literature. And I was looking for something like this because I am teaching children's literature at the moment. So yeah, and because I teach teachers and future teachers. So what this is, you can search. So it's free to sign up for teachers, but your school has to be like a registered school. So they registered our school because of me. You're welcome, our school.
Nice.
So
you're welcome.
You sign up with your school credentials and then you can just peruse and download like so many different samples of literature in so many different genres, and like it'll come with questions, like discussion questions and multiple choice questions and essay questions. Like, so if I'm thinking for my education majors, like I'm like, dude, when you have to write lesson plans and if you have to have examples of literature that your students are going to be reading, this is a great resource. And you can, it's free to download, as I think as many as you want. I mean, I've been using it quite frequently.
You're
Turns
testing
out
the
their
limit.
number is
So,
one over the
yeah.
number Robin has downloaded at this point. She's gonna come back in tomorrow. They're gonna be like, nope, no more. You're banned.
No more. So I originally found it because of teaching children's lit, and I wanted some examples for my students to read, and many of them are future teachers also.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily like higher ed, like content reading level, but it would be used for people who would be focused more on K-12. So
Yeah.
K-12 teachers, you're golden. You can use it forever and ever. Amen. Higher ed teachers, especially if you teach people who are going to be teachers, or a class like children's lit where you're digging deep for content that
there's a
is
lesson in
not
here
your
on Mariah
student.
Carey, so I think
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
it's
no, I
applicable
mean, it's
to
Is it to not sing at New
it's
Year's Eve?
contemporary. It's
savage.
they have everything: contemporary, classic, original. Like they have original authors that I guess
Super cool.
are common lit people. But yeah, so commonlit.org is my app for the evening or daytime, whatever you're listening to this.
Whenever you're listening,
general
to the
time
podcast,
frame.
general time.
General time frame.
Nailed it. Nice How I Met Your Mother joke. That was good. That's our next series. How I Met Your Mother
How I Met
teaches
Your
us
Mother goes
about
to college.
Ooh, I like that one too. That's fun.
I mean, I think we just skip Barney. I really don't think we can justify
I
Barney.
think basically the entire series is just you learn that education happens at a bar. That's my takeaway.
I've learned a few things in a bar.
Yeah, it's true.
Let's move on from that. This is fantastic. It is free. I'm like poking around the pricing and stuff like that. They want schools to pay. They want schools to get like big features and lots of stuff. But like the engaging content, which is the library itself and the curriculum around the library, is completely free for teachers. That's our favorite kind of tool at the High Tech Podcast. Free.
Yeah.
One might say we built our podcast on that foundation. Free. And
we want others to do it too.
Yes, we like it. It's great times. Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, now that we have done your app, thank you. I will transition us to a conclusion. Wow.
Thank you. Thanks
on the
for having me
nose
on.
with this one. Yeah, thank you as always, Robin. So I've already started an email. It's drafted right now. It says February ? And I'm just going to you. We'll get you back on the podcast as soon as possible.
Nice.
We are going to take a moment here just to wind down the craziness that is this Ted Lasso series and this episode of the series. I'll just stop talking.
There's still plenty more to come. Thanks, Robin.
Thank you. Bye.
And we're back. We are back from our interview with Robin, having a great time with Riverside as always. Robin, thank you as always for joining us. Rebecca, such an insightful character, but your thoughts on that experience, your thoughts on how it impacted the teaching and learning process, your thoughts on how we can apply that to our students, significant. I'm before we jump on Rebecca though, I have to stop on commonlit.org. So Robin shared that one with me, and it's like one of those like commonsense.org kind of sites. It's like one of those things I never would have thought to look for. But once you know it's there, it's like, oh, duh. We need tools like that. Something where it's going to help you with curriculum, provide curriculum, make it easier for you to teach. Love a tool like that. So thank you, Robin. Thank you for sharing that with our audience. Folks, go ahead and check out commonlit.org and make sure you can take a look, see if it's relevant to you. You know, it is maybe more K-12 focused, but I know that there's plenty of teachers in that space that are a part of our audience. And if you're a faculty member who knows K-12 teachers, please share that along. And make sure folks are taking advantage of that.
It doesn't just have to be that. I think we didn't talk about it much when we were talking with Robin, but she teaches other students to be teachers, so that's part of the reason she's using it. But like, I know plenty of literature professors or people in teaching fantasy literature type of courses and things like that could find use out of this. That are books that you would normally not consider a higher ed type of book that she found that could be used in those types of classes as well. So I think there's a lot of kind of broad usage depending on kind of the humanities and where you're at in that area that could be really helpful for.
Yeah. I love that. So, I mean, on the point of Rebecca, right? Like this is someone as a character who's got lots of negatives behind her and has been affected by many things, could be a victim, but rise to the top. And I thought that the conversation we had, it's not like we're trying to or making some way to make sure we've got the right people for each of the persons, but like we came with this idea out to our friends who might join us on the podcast. Like, hey, we want to talk about Roy, we want to talk about Rebecca, we want to talk about, and we let them pick, right? Justin picked Roy, Robin wanted Rebecca. So it was really great to see that she not only cared about what was going on with Rebecca and how we can learn from that and apply it to students, but Robin recognized that kind of female experience that she shared with Rebecca and things like that impact what we can learn about Rebecca. And it was just a perfect little moment to work with Robin on this subject. So thank you again, but also I hope folks you take away from this that even if we look at Roy Kent, who's rough and gruff, Rebecca, who's high to do, well classed, etiquette, very prim and prop, has both of those very different characters have much to teach us about how we can relate to our students, how we can relate to each other, how we can approach the classroom, right? We don't, and as we probably don't say enough explicitly, like approach the physical classroom or the virtual classroom. There's ways that even in just how we send an email to our students, our tone, the language we're using, the consistency we reach out to our students, these are all things that can be impacted by how we or should impact how we teach, even in a virtual context and online learning. So, don't just take these lessons on these characters as what we have to do in the physical classroom, but consider those options for how you might interact in a forum, how you might send emails, when you send them, your tone, all those kinds of things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of my big takeaways was something Robin had done that I think was really helpful, was where Robin talked about where she's talking with that student and she literally says to the student, like, I don't know what you're going through and you don't need to tell me, but let's figure out a plan type of thing. I think that's a perfect example of like what we're talking about, where I think with Rebecca as a character that displays this and what we learn about people is there's often a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes of why people do things that we don't understand. And it can either be acting out or it can be even in a college setting why they're not doing work or they're engaging in the class. I think we always just kind of assume that like they just don't want to or they don't want to be the, and you have those students who like I'm not entirely sure why they're paying for college, but they like there's more of them that there's like usually a reason behind it or something that's causing it. But I love the concept of like not having to push students to tell us everything. I think that's where we sometimes go overboard sometimes, is expecting every student to tell us if there's something going wrong. So I think something that was really admirable and what Robin did is having that moment to say to the student, I know something is going on, but I don't need to know what it is if you don't want to tell me. Like, I'm not forcing you to tell me, but I'm going to try to work through something and give you the benefit of the doubt that whatever that is worth impacting what's going on here. Like, I think that's a powerful thing. And I think when we're looking at how we lead students well, how we teach students well, remembering that they're people and remembering that they're going through things, and just as simply acknowledging that that's probably a reason why things aren't going well in class, and not just assuming they don't want to do things. Like when we assume that better part of us, I think the students appreciate it. They see that, and that even in of itself can motivate students in the same way it motivates Rebecca to stop being a jerk and change her mentality, right? Like exactly. I think that was kind of my takeaway. Yeah.
This has been awesome. All right, so this is episode 3 in the series. We got 2 more ahead of us. We're going to be taking a look at Nate, and finally will be Ted Lasso. Ted will be the final episode in the Ted Lasso Goes to College series. Next episode with Nate is going to be Steve Martinez, a good friend of the podcast now, and the final episode, Ted Lasso, with my brother, the good Dr. Charles Illingworth. Until then, make sure you follow us on YouTube and Twitter at High Tech Podcast, Reddit, Threads, Insta at High Tech Pod. Our email inbox at hightechpod.us. Send us appreciation, feedback, encouragements. We love those little notes. But also, if you want to join the podcast, if you want to be an affiliate, you want to be a sponsor, you want to anything, let us know. You want to come on the podcast, we'd love to have you. It works. You do reach out, we do get you on the podcast. And our website, as always, hightechpod.us. Every single episode has an episode page with resources about the episode, information, people, pictures, all that kinds of good stuff that Josh puts together for us. Thank you, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
That's there for you at all times. So make sure you share those pages out to folks. You have a question about Nearpod, you have a question about Miro, you have a question about Ted Lasso, go and grab one of those episode pages and send that to people. Retweet it, share it. That's going to give us more reach, more audience, but also that's what we want it to be there for, is to help folks. So we appreciate you sharing that around. Thank you again for joining us for another week as we continue to learn what it looks like to harness technology in the Ted Lasso classroom or the regular classroom, whether it's online or in person. Barbecue sauce.
Barbecue sauce.